Hey everyone, it's me, Jonathan from Motorpsychology. Welcome to the channel, and if you're new here, welcome. And if you're a returning viewer, welcome back. And thanks once again for your support. It's noticed and greatly appreciated. So in today's video, it's part 2 to the motorcycle changing the tires off the motorcycle, which includes taking the wheels off the motorcycle, taking the rubber off the rims, putting the rubber back on the rims and balancing them. So if you haven't seen part 1 is all about doing the front tire. Part 2, this video, is all about the rear tire. So I go from taking the wheel off the motorcycle, getting the rubber off of the rim, putting new rubber back on the rim, balancing it, and then putting it back on the motorcycle, making sure that everything is working okay, and then going out for a short ride to test the brakes again and to scrub in the new tires. So this is part 2, the final part for this video on changing your motorcycle tires on a sports bike. In my case, it's a Suzuki GSXR, but the principles remain the same for the other types of motorcycles. So you'll see a few special tools that I'm using. I'm using a patented breaker bar, bead breaker, and spoons to lift the tire out. And I'm also using a tire balancing setup, which you're going to see in this video as well. So without further ado, let's jump right into this video and see how it goes. All right, we're down here to take off the rear wheel, and it's not quite as complicated as the other one. The caliper, which is on the right side, is also attached through the axle, so that's not a really big deal. And the axle bolt is pretty huge. So this one is a 32 millimeter. That fits, so I had to get a special one of those, which I bought a few years ago, but that'll fit on there. First thing that you need to do is to get the axle out, and there's a part down here which is helps you align the axle up. So I'm not even going to touch that. That is what you use normally to adjust your chain slack, so I'm going to leave that the same because I don't want to get into there. So my job right now is to get this thing off and get this off and get the tire changed. So I'm going to use my breaker bar for that. Once again, making sure that my motorcycle is up on the jacks and the kickstand is down just in case something happens. So I'm going to use the breaker bar. Should not be a huge deal here. So that's coming off pretty easily. Get this guy off. You want to keep an eye on any spacers in there. Make sure you put them back in the same order. So, you know, as far as this one's concerned, you've got the main axle bolt, and there's a washer here. And I don't know if I'm going to take that out yet. So there's this thing here, take that out. And there's your axle, so it's just a matter of getting that axle off. So here you have your brake. It goes through the axle down here. So I'm going to tap this, the axle out, and then also keep control of that. So I'm going to try and rest this thing hopefully somewhere. I may hang it on there, so I'm going to put a cloth over there, just to prevent any scratching of anything. So that cloth is there to put the brake on, hopefully. So I'm going to tap that out with my hammer. So I'm using once again using the soft tip hammer, and tap it out gently. This keep an eye on where that goes. That goes in like that, and now I want to put something underneath this tire so when I take it off, it doesn't just drop. The axle is coming out and the tire getting ready to drop. So once I get it loose, I can loosen up the chain there. So sometimes it feels like a little bit of a handful, but Once I get the axle out, I'll be taking the chain out of here, if not already. Chain, I'm going to just rest it over here. There we go. And I'm just going to put the brake out of the way. Perfect. Now this can almost come out. I just got to take the old chain off. There we go. Leave the chain there, and the tire will come out really, really easily. And we'll get this old rubber off and a new piece on. So with this, it's important to see the way that the tire goes on, that way. So on the sprocketed side, it's going counterclockwise. I'm going to put a little arrow on there with some tape. This will be the tire rotation direction. And at this point, you can also take this thing out. It's got some dampeners in it right there. So this thing fits in that side of the wheel. You can also take the time to inspect these things. These are just little rubber bushings. They just they give a little bit of flexibility, let's put it that way, because they're rubber. When you accelerate and brake, these just allow the torque a little bit of buffering. So because they're rubber, it allows the torque to come on slower and also the braking to come on slower. So it gives you a little bit of give. It's pretty normal in these tires. So I don't think I'm going to take these things out, but quick inspection of them, they all look good. The bearings look great. And let's get ready to take the air out of this thing and get the tire off. So generally you want a valve remover on there. I'm not too sure where mine is. I'll have a look and see if I got one. So for this one, I'm going to actually use some Windex-like material as lubricant. Probably actually works better than the proper stuff. So I'm going to spray that around the bead and then break that bead. I like how that kind of foams up and sticks around a little bit. So that's really helpful. So once again, for this tool, it's just a matter of getting that one underneath the bead, and then you use this tool here to kind of elevate it up. So let's see how this goes. Not bad, not bad. That just goes in and helps push it down. The trick is getting this part here, the tip, all the way to the rim, and then if you can get it in, it's usually the first one that is the hardest one to do. And once you get that in, it's just a matter of doing this thing, and it just pushes it down. So with these hand tools, you just want to take out tiny bite-sized chunks and work your way around the rim and gradually get that tire to be pushed down from the bead more towards the center of the rim. And it's really about keeping in mind those tiny chunks and just work your way around the rim. And that's the best way possible with these hand tools. Just kind of work your way around the tire here. Slowly get that bead pushed down. There we go.
One's almost off.
After going around the circumference of the tire, putting my weight on the edge of the tire where it hits the rim eventually gets all the tire off that side of the rim, and I'll be good to move on to the next step.
Right, time to put these guys on. So we're going to get this thing off. So it's usually good to start with a couple tire irons as a minimal. You just need to put these things underneath the tire here. There we go. Fire this one in. All right, we'll give them both a try here. There we go, getting it up. Slowly make your way around in incremental steps. Here we go. Can be kind of noisy at times. Once you get most of it out, this part becomes pretty easy.
So we're getting the first part of the tire off the rim. So we've broken the bead and now we're elevating it over the rim. So once again, it's the same process of just incrementally going around the rim, using the tire spoon between the rim and the tire to help elevate the tire over the rim. So that's getting the first part off, and then once that's off, we have to move to get the second side of the tire over the rim. And I'll show you that in a second.
You just keep working your way around. I don't know which is easier, getting them on or off.
So we're getting really close here to getting this side of the tire off of the rim. It's just the last final touches here. So I'm maneuvering the spoon closer to the edge that needs to come out, and it's almost there. So there's barely any resistance from the tire over the rim, and it's just going to be a matter of popping it off like that, and we're good to go.
Right. There we go. One side off. So on here, you want to push that one down into the rim. So hopefully I can just push it in.
Yeah, I wasn't as lucky being able to use my body weight to push that tire off the rim. I've seen other people use, maybe a car tire and try and carefully run over the tire edge to push it down, but I've decided I'm going to go back and use these bead breakers, and it shouldn't be very difficult just to push that bead down enough that I'll be able to manually push the rest of it off. So let's see how that goes.
There we go. All right. So the tire's getting there. Once again, good idea to put these in. So now it's just simply about lifting that thing over the rim. Like so. You can, if you had a friend or somebody to help, you can start pushing down on this side with some weight. There. So there's the rim. and the tire. Okay, so now we're going to put on the new tire on the rim, and I'll take you through that. So you want to look at the tire rotation, make sure that you get it rotating in the right way, which I have. So I've got the indicators down here. Turns that way. And I had the piece of tape on that had the arrow going that way. So I know that the tire goes on this way. Before I get it on there, I want to spray down the beads with a bunch of the glass cleaner.
One of my main observations throughout the entire tire change process for both the front and the back is making sure that it's lubed up as much as possible. So I tried a whole bunch of different things. I used tire slick. It was okay, but it tended to dry up faster than I wanted, and most people would recommend using Windex. And for some reason it's got the properties where it stays wet long enough, and it is also slippery enough as well. So I just used a generic spray-on window cleaner, and I was really impressed with it. It actually stuck on the tire and the rim longer than you'd expect. I liked that it was foamy, so that the foam stuck, and it worked relatively well considering that it's not made for that. So it outperformed this specialty fluid called Tire Slick, and this stuff, just being generic window cleaner, actually provided the right type of lubricant that you're looking for a job like this. So now that I've got the one side of the tire on, I'm just taking a look at that yellow dot and aligning it up to the valve stem. So that's one of the key areas that you want to make sure you do all the time, is line up those dots with the valve stem, and then get this side in.
All right, so I'm going to push down on one side of the tire and get it in as much into the rim as possible, and then hopefully just have to use the tire irons on this side of it. So let's try that.
All right, let's see how we do here. So I was lucky enough to get most of my body weight over that side of the tire, so at least getting 1/3 underneath the rim. So that was about as far as I could go, and I want to let you know that I had this tire out in the sun, and it's useful if you change these things in the summertime to allow them to warm up. You get a little bit more flexibility in the tire, which makes them a little bit more pliable for getting them over the rims. So keep that in mind. If it's not summertime and you're doing it, then another option is to heat up the rubber by running a hairdryer through it. But it's really important to make sure that that tire is as warm as possible to help you be able to bend it over the rim. So it's already hard enough, so it's useful if the tire rubber is warmer. So what I'm doing here is I'm trying to keep my weight on the part of the tire that's already under the rims, and then progressively spoon up the bead on the new tire over the rim as much as possible. So it's not super easy, but at the same time it's not super difficult. So a couple things to keep in mind: if you had somebody, one other person around to help, that makes it easier, because they could help hold on to the spoons as you work your way around the perimeter of the rim. The other thing is, once you get to the last little bit of the tire that needs to go over the rim, it's surprising how much leverage you need to pop the tire over. So don't be afraid to push on it harder than you would have imagined. So every time I do this, I'm really surprised on how much force you have to use to do the final part of the tire over the rim. So we're going to get to that in a second as we move around the tire. I'm going to try hard to keep this in real time to show you roughly how long it takes to get the final part of the tire into the rim. So it's always a challenge to keep the other parts of the tire from coming back over the rim. So you're really using your feet, your hands, and thinking on how to do this. What I would suggest is if you do decide to do this at home, don't get frustrated at it. Just take those tiny little bits, and with those tools you can definitely get it done, and you can get it done safely and effectively and efficiently, and perhaps save yourself a little bit of time and money as well. In my case, because I live out in the country, it would take a little bit of extra time to bring my motorcycle into a shop that's in the city, wait for the appointment to happen, get it done, and then pick it up. So knowing these skills and how to do them at home with some simple tools is a great skill to have as well. So you got to buy those rim protectors for sure, and the spoons slash bead breaker tool as well is super useful. So I am progressively making myself get this tire around the rim as we progress, and let's see how it goes. I promise you we're going to get this thing on pretty soon. So once again, this is real time, and when you think about it, it only takes a couple minutes per side. So this is another homemade rim protector, which I used a cut up laundry detergent container, and it works fine. The thing I like about it is a little bit thinner than the blue plastic one, so you don't have to be looking to create that space. So it's a little bit of a space saver, I guess. So anyway, I'm working my way around. I'm trying to keep my left knee on one of the spoons to keep that engaged as I move around to the other one. So making more progress, coming up to the top here, which is good. And just taking out more bites here. Anytime that I can get part of the tire underneath the rim is a bonus. So smaller bites, and remember, you have to use a little bit more force than you would necessarily anticipate off the beginning. And just for the record, putting the front tire on, because it's a smaller piece of rubber, is a little bit harder than the rear tire. But they're both doable. You just have to follow the process of taking little bites with these tire spoons and incrementally go around. If you take larger bites, it's not going to work at all. So I'm getting really close here. As you can see at the top, I've only got about 12 inches to flip around and get it in the rim. But only a few more attempts here, and we're going to get it really, really close. So what you're going to see next is this prying into place, and then I'm just going to get in position and then just pop the final bit in with my foot, and we should be good to go. There we go. Hopefully you saw that. So the tire is in the rim, just pulling these things off. And the next thing that we're going to do is seat the tire beads into the rim. So really you just have to inflate the tire full of high pressure air. So from a viewer's perspective, on the left side of the screen you're going to see and hear a pop, and then shortly after on the right side you're going to hear and see a pop.
So now we have it on the rim. We're just going to put some more of the glass cleaner in it for lubrication, and we're going to pop it up. Just going to double check to make sure the yellow dot is in line with the valve stem, so we should be good to go.
So I'm just getting this tire ready to inflate. I'm going to spray some glass cleaner close to where the beads are, and what I was doing there was rotating the tire around so I could find the valve location to match for an easy place to insert the air. So we're good with that. So just putting some lubrication on there, and we're going to hook up the air hose to the valve and then start putting in some air and hopefully getting this tire seated on the rim. So let's see how it goes.
Here comes one.
Okay, those were two very clear and distinct popping noises, and in the video you could see where it popped off, so the tire is nicely seated on the rim.
So the tire is on the rim, and now it's time to put it back onto the motorcycle. But first I got to take it to the workshop and balance it, so let's get ready to do that. All right, stick this guy back in.
So as I'm getting this set up, it's just a matter of putting this conical shape end cap on this little axle here and putting that on nice and tight so that the wheel is level on the axle there. And it's super important to get your tires balanced. I don't know if any of you out there have ridden motorcycles with the tires not balanced, but it's annoying. So on my bike, where you can often do fairly fast speed, so it's a super sport bike, so a racing bike capable of fast acceleration and high speed. So it's really important that these tires are balanced as close to neutral as possible, because if you're at high speeds and these things are not balanced, you're going to get uneven wear on your tires, you're going to get uneven tread wear, and also it's going to vibrate like crazy and not be safe or comfortable to ride.
It's definitely heavy here, so I'm going to mark this at our 12 o'clock, and I'm going to take one of these off if I can. Take all the weights off.
I'm just using a straight edge razor to get rid of the old adhesive that held the old weights on, and just to get rid of some of the film on there, I'm using Goof Off, which I'm sure most of you know is a really good remover of sticky stuff, and it's useful for a lot of things around the house. So it cleaned that thing off really well, and I was able to prepare the surface perfectly for the next set of weights that I'll be putting on.
Just going to mark this again. Give it one more spin just to confirm. Take the sticker off here as well, just in case if that's impacting it. Shouldn't though. All right, here we go. Another spin.
I think it's good on this balancer to always run your wheel 1 to 3 times just to make sure that you find the most heaviest spot and lightest spot, and can confirm that before you put the weights on.
In the meantime, I'm going to cut off some of these. So these, once again, are the 14 ounces, so probably need a whole strip maybe. This is coming back up to the top. Just perfect. All right, so that's the lightest part, definitely. So that's come there twice. So what you want to do is, that's the lightest spot. So basically you want to put it at 3 o'clock and see which way it's going to go. All right, so that shows you that we're going to put a couple weights on here to start off. Before I do that, I just want to clean the surface.
So to clean this rim surface so that the weights with the stickers will adhere to it properly and last a long time, I'm using isopropyl alcohol, or otherwise known as rubbing alcohol, and that will prepare the surface perfectly for these weights.
All right, so this is going to be the place where we're going to stick them. I'm going to try it with a one weight to start off with. See how that goes.
Push it right up to the side there. Can't even notice it. All right, let's see. Still moving up. We'll stick another one in there. Here we go. Put that one in here right next to it and snug it up nice and close. So now we've got 1/2 ounce in there. Put it to 3 o'clock and see which way it still goes. Not bad. Check it over here. I'm going to put one more on and see what it's like here. This one I'm not going to stick on very hard at all, just in case I have to pull it off. I'm just going to lightly put it in there and see what's the deal here. That looks pretty good. Just giving this one more spin just to see where it balances out. So I think I'm pretty close with the 3 weights on. It might be a tad like smidgen heavy, but I'm okay with that. So we're just going to let this settle out and see where it lands. Just waiting to see whether that stops and where my mark is. So here's my weights in here. It looks pretty good. I'm going to stick this one in here now, and I'm going to call it balanced. Snug that one nice and close, and as close to the center line as possible. Those are in place, and I don't think it's going to move when I put it at 3 o'clock. No, it's good. Nicely balanced. Now we can take this off and bring it out to the motorcycle and get it installed, and then take the bike out for a test ride. Okay, we're looking at the back of the motorcycle here. The axle goes through from this side to this side. These are their rear forks, for lack of a better word, and this is the brake that also goes through the axle as well. So I'm going to get that back wheel on right now and then torque it up. Before I put the wheel back on, remember I've got to put the sprockets back on. So that is the inside, and it's just a matter of just verifying that everything is in the right way. And then line this up and push it in. So now we have the sprocket ready to go. I'm going to clean all this stuff up after I've got the bike back together, and I'll do the chain and clean the sprocket then. All right, getting ready to put the wheel on. So I'm just going to roll it in place here. I'm going to use my bottle windshield washer fluid. There we go. So we're just back here on the right side. I've got to squeeze the brake caliper over the disc and also get it lined up on this hole here so that the axle can go through. So you want to line this thing up on your axle like that so that it's firm, and then start threading it through. So this guy here is actually going to go in between the tire. So get this thing lined up. The key area of concern here is on the top of the brake. There's a groove that slides into the swing arm of the forks there, so it's important to get that groove in, and that's what I'm working at right now. So it's a fine line between getting the brake slid in there, and it looks like we've pretty much got it. So the groove of the brake is in there, and now we're able to stick the axle back in. So I'm going to tap this in, but before I do that, I'm going to put the chain on the other side. So now's a good time to get the chain on the sprocket before everything gets in the way. Then you can kind of roll it on once I get the axle on. I'll show you that in a sec. All right. You can just kind of walk it back to get the chain on, like so. There we go. Time to put the rest in. This guy goes in like this. Washer. And tighten this thing up. Super important to get this wheel on straight so that it's not riding on an angle. It's in place on that side, so I can now torque this down. Just going to put it in gear. So the torque value on this was 72.5 pounds, so I'm going to torque that in. And that's the same tightness as the front. I'm just doing the final torquing here. I'm gradually putting some pressure on this nut here, and I'm listening for the sound of the torque bar to make its traditional click click noise. And once I hear that and feel it through the stem of the torque wrench, then I know that I'm up to 72.5 foot-pounds for this particular application. There we go, that's torqued up, and for what it's worth, we're good to go. So here we have the new rubber on, and you always want to take your bike out for a scrub on the new tires before you get going, because they are a lot slipperier when they're brand new, so you want to rough up the surface. So I'm going to be taking it out for a ride shortly. Before I do that, I'm going to lower it off the stand. So once again, it's put the front wheel down first, and then the back wheel. So I'll set up my tripod here and I'll lower the bike, and then I'm going to make sure I have the right pressure in the tires, and then I'm going to take it out for a quick ride. Okay, remember I said keep the kickstand down, so it's still down there, and we're going to lower the front first and then the back. And when the back goes down, the bike will automatically lean that way. So I'll be at the back of the bike, kind of guiding it to fall on the kickstand. So I'll check the kickstand before I lower the bike to make sure it's in place, and then we're good to go. The front is coming down right now. It's pretty easy to do. You just take your time and lower it. The wheels lower it right down. There we go. That's too easy. And then tilt your steering wheel that way so that when the bike leans, it'll naturally lean that way. So I'm going to go do the back one right now. So I just make sure that I have some sort of positive control over this side here, and use one hand
to lower it, and it usually works. So let's see. Here we go. There we go. And then I'll just let it lean that way. And that is it. So the motorcycle is ready to go. We have these brand new tires on here. They look amazing. Brand new tires on here, and we'll check the pressure and then we're going to top it up. So the max pressure for both of these tires is 42 psi when it's cold. It is cold, but not super cold. So I'm just going to put 39 psi in it for now and check later. So it's at 30.5, so I'm going to bump it up to 39 and inflate away. There we go. And moving on to the front. The front tire, I just measured it. It was at 40.2, so I just deflated it to 39 and we're all set. So we're going to be taking this out and testing it. So what are we looking for when we're testing it? We're going to be scrubbing in the tires and then also checking the balance and also checking the brakes to make sure that they are working fine. And that's it. So I'm going to go out for a little country ride and check this out. All right, so I just put on these brand new motorcycle tires and I'm just checking my brakes a little, make sure they work. They seem to be okay. And now I got to scrub these tires in, so I'm just going for a little bit of a country trip, I guess. So things seem to be moving pretty good. No complaints. It's nice and smooth. So I'm checking the brakes, I'm scrubbing in the tires, and remember I balance them as well. And right now they feel fine. So they actually feel more balanced than the old set, which is a plus. So it's not too difficult if you have the balancing jig that I have, and you get a box of those weights, which I have way too many of them. I'll never need them all, but they're all black, which matches the rim, and they're all a 1/4 ounce, so works fine for me. And so far, yeah, it feels really smooth, so that's nice. So I just took this out for a ride. Nothing too intense, but just enough to get some of the scuffing off of it. So yeah, it's getting there, and I'll show you the rear tire. So it's pretty clear to see what's going on here. So I was able to kind of get it down to this side and that side. Still got a lot more to do, but for a 5-minute run, that was pretty good. So it's at least scuffed in and pretty much good to go. Hey everyone, that concludes the video on changing out the tires and wheels, balancing, and all the stuff on a typical motorcycle. In this case, it's a Suzuki GSXR, but the process is generally the same, especially when it comes to getting that rubber off the rim. I'm not going to say that it is easy. It has its challenges, particularly in breaking the bead initially and then putting the last one on as well. And you can see it's certainly doable, and I'm happy with the results. So that concludes the video. Thanks so much for being here, and we'll catch you all right back here next time.